We're back, and in this one we've got more listener stories from everyday job hunters just like you. So sit back, relax, and let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back. Game Industry Job Hunt episode 11. My name is Joe, I'm your host. I'm going to keep this intro very short because we have some more stories from our friends in the community here that have been listening to the show for a while, and they've agreed to come on and share their stories with us, so I want to get right to that. But before we do, I do want to remind you to leave a review for the show on whatever platform you're listening to it on. That would be a really big help. At least a 5-star review is really good just to sort of spread the word. So if you don't mind doing that, it's greatly appreciated. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the stories. All right. So joining us now is Charlie. Charlie has kindly agreed to come on the show and share his game industry job hunt story with us. Charlie, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing me on. Everything is it's going pretty well. It's going all right.
Good. Well, yeah. Well, it's been a while actually since we first made contact, and so kind of tell us your story, but also sort of catch me up on everything while you're at it.
All right. So, I guess a little bit of background on myself. So I started. I'm a programmer, a game programmer. At the very least, I consider myself to be. I haven't really entered the game industry yet, but I have made a whole bunch of like projects, smaller game projects. And I started programming back in high school since I went to like a technical high school. So I had a bit of a leg up by the time college started, which is generally where a lot of people start learning to program there. And I was able to like tutor a whole bunch of people, and ended up even like at one point literally ended up teaching a class for one day, C++ programming, but I left ultimately because of the other classes, the stuff that I didn't really need to do, and I just wanted to like the stuff that I didn't really care about, I guess, environmental science, stuff like that. Like I just wanted to make video games. I felt like I already knew how to do it.
That makes
So
sense.
the irony is, yeah, the irony is that I left college to pursue my passion, when generally that's the reason why people go to college, is to pursue their passion, and from there, I just sort of like started like growing myself, learning online how to make games, and made a whole bunch of small projects. Went into like took part in game jams, and have ended up taking a whole bunch of different jobs that were sort of game adjacent, online casino games. Ended up working in the aerospace company Lockheed Martin because they ended up having Unity. They use the Unity engine in particular for some of their projects, mainly for VR purposes. And most recently, I have like a side gig where I was sort of like working to improve on. I might get some attacks here. Well, it's some AI, because I know that AI generally, I think AI in particularly is a pretty, I don't want to say controversial subject, but it is something that it's delicate
Yeah.
in this,
I think
especially.
people just don't know how to feel yet. I know that's true
Yeah.
for me. I didn't really know how to feel about AI, and I'm still sort of kind of like not really sure, but I can say that my job hunt over the past several months really opened my eyes to some of the capabilities of AI as far as just making things like that easier. And so that's something that I've really gotten more into, is kind of trying to figure out, how can I be the AI guy wherever I am, and kind of add
Yeah.
value that way. So
For sure, I feel like right now, the position that I am, I guess, with AI is just like, if in terms of like programming, because my main job in that side gig is to like improve the AI's ability to be able to like program well and not give you buggy code, give you exactly what you want, stuff like that. And my position on it essentially is, as long as you know what it's giving back to you and you're just not like copying and pasting whatever it gives you, then I think you're okay. Just know what the AI is giving you. You should know that. That's your job. With all that being said, it's been rough, I guess, to enter into the game industry. Surprise, surprise. Everybody knows how cutthroat the industry is. Everybody wants it, of course. So right now, because I've focused so much on making games, that's my niche, but it's gotten to the point now at this climate essentially that I see myself as a game developer, and people outside of the game industry will see me as a game developer because I've ended up posting stuff about games online and all this sort of stuff. But the industry in itself, I don't believe does, mainly because, well, I haven't really joined any sort of game industry job yet. Everything has just been game adjacent.
Can I hop in here real quick for a second? All right. And so as everybody knows, yourself and listeners know, I'm not a therapist, but I will say, hearing you say that brings to mind for me the phrase "perception is reality." Right?
Yeah.
You've heard that phrase, I assume?
Yeah.
So meaning that you seem to be perceiving that others in the industry don't view you as a game developer. Fair?
Possibly.
Yeah,
I never
possibly.
want to mention that it's 100% sure because I never know for sure.
For sure, yeah.
But
Well, so I was going to say, so the thing that comes to mind for me there is that, you are not the only one that's in this type of situation you're in, right?
for sure.
There are tons of people, and again, like I was telling you before we started recording, I'm really grateful to you for sharing your story, coming on the show and sharing your story, because I hope we can get more people to do this. But one thing that I'm learning as I talk to more folks that are sort of in that entry level realm is there are all kinds of different ways to get into the games industry. You know what I mean? And
For sure.
I I would want you to focus on the awesome experiences that you do have rather than how you perceive people are perceiving you, because I really do believe that is an industry, or that is an entry level pitfall that I see a lot of people fall into, and I fell into myself. And so I guess I would just close out this little Fraser Crane moment with saying, try not to focus too much on those external stimuli, like what do people think of me, how do people perceive me, and instead just go for it. Just go for it, because you will find one way or the other inevitably that stuff doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and that people aren't and this is a lesson, me being in sort of the community and social and forward facing world, took me a long time to understand and to realize, but you don't have to perform for anybody. All you have to
Yeah.
do is do your thing. You know what I mean? And people are going to notice what you share with them and what you show them. There's nobody worrying about what's Charlie going to say next? What's Charlie going to do next? So that's sort of like an external thing that I think with time, it gets easier and easier to kind of close that off and not worry about that. But I think, I'm sure it's not the same for everybody. Everybody's different, but I know for me, I had a lot of similar thoughts like that, like you do
Yeah.
early in my career, and still do sometimes. And it can be tough.
Yeah. And no, I appreciate that. And I'm in agreement. I feel like when I ended up mentioning that, it's how I feel slash felt, but I'm 100% in agreement. It's not something that should be focused on because at the end of the day, what benefit does it give you? It doesn't really give you any benefit other than anything.
Exactly.
Honestly, it just makes you want to quit, and that's literally it. And there's no point. Like if something's just going to work against you, then like why focus on it?
Exactly.
Um,
It's
so
it's
like
it's the whole adage, like, worry about what you can control, right?
exactly. I feel like I ended up realizing after a while, like after I ended up thinking to myself, like, okay, so right now I'm in the position where I need to like I guess show more of what I can do. I guess like I needed to like so I felt like I needed to sort of like prove myself. So I ended up making a particular, and I guess this is more into like advice I guess that I can end up giving based on my mistakes or things that I realized were sort of mistakes, and like in hindsight, maybe I should have thought about something else, like another approach to it. I ended up focusing too much on my projects in terms of learning as opposed to polishing and like showing a good finished product, if that makes sense. So like obviously making a game it consists of a whole bunch of things other than just programming. You want to end up potentially making sure that the fighting mechanics end up feeling good, fluid, maybe not so stuttery. end up having solid sounds, stuff like that, a whole bunch of random stuff, right? And I didn't really focus on any of that. I ended up just mainly purely focusing on the programming aspect. And so I essentially ended up with a whole bunch of small projects that I completely abandoned because my main focus was just learning. Just learn, and then by the time I'm done learning, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to learn as much. Like, I'm not going to get as much value if I continue going. It's just going to be polishing. And I know how to polish it, but like, why when I can just do something new that I'm very curious about that I don't know about, learn that, and I'll get smarter and smarter and smarter. And that was my approach for the longest time. And I ended up realizing that's not how the world works because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And this is the sort of like realization that I had about it, like I don't know, a fair amount of months ago. It doesn't matter how much you know if you can't really prove or like have a way to like portray it to people like through a resume or through your work portfolio effectively. You're not going to get that interview. And if you don't get that interview, then sucks. Doesn't matter how much you know. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how much you think you know. Like you're not going to get it. You're not going to have a chance to speak about it. And that was like a blind spot of mine. I failed to stand in the position of another interview because I totally get like it makes no sense for me to be like, oh please give me a chance. Believe me, I know I can do well. Like they're
Yeah,
not just gonna do
absolutely.
that for me. They do that for everybody then.
Yeah.
So it's not fair. So I would just recommend to like anyone listening, like don't make that same mistake that I made. Like focus on actually like see in the perspective of the recruiter, of who might be people who might be interviewing you. Like make sure that you're showcasing this stuff and like don't just talk the talk. Obviously walk the walk. I'm trying to think of like what other stuff I could mention. I'm seeing myself right now, and one main point keeps coming to mind, and I'll just bring this up because I think this is a small point that nobody talks about, and if I don't
Sure.
mention this, I don't think anybody will.
Go for it.
Um, okay, so like this entire thing has like the past. I've been dealing through this for like 2 years now, and like I can see my skin right now is like somewhat like it's somewhat like flaky here. Like there's it. My skin is bad, and I
I
feel like
think you look beautiful for the record, Charlie. Really,
I
really.
appreciate that, Joe, but you're lying, and I know it. But you're too kind. You're too kind. Um, and the reason why I want to bring this up because it does tie into the whole game industry thing. So I've been part of doing this. I've been dealing with these issues for like 2 years now, and it's sort of like gotten to me, and it has caused me to sort of deal with like obviously a very common problem is like how do you deal with money issues at this point when you're struggling to like
Yeah.
stabilize yourself. And one thing I would end up recommending, and here's the weird tip, if you are looking for like ways to be able to stabilize yourself and while at the same time treating yourself at times, McDonald's is not sponsoring me here, but like, believe me, if you want to save money, if you need to save money during this time that you have no job, get the app, the McValue meal. You will save money out of it.
Get the
It's
McApp.
not healthy. I'm not saying that you should live off of it because your body won't be happy, but your wallet will be. I'm telling you that. I promise you, your wallet will be happy.
And again, FTC, if you're listening to this, not sponsored. No hashtag ad necessary. Although that said, McDonald's, if you're listening and you're interested, by all means, reach out. But yeah, I want to follow up with you on kind of how are things going now. You know, how is the job hunt going now? I know in your story you reached out. You told me about this game jam that you did that was amazing, and you almost quit, but you didn't. You really kept at it, and then you ended up winning. Your team ended up winning first place, which was amazing. You know,
Yeah.
how did that? Like, what was the aftermath of that like? What's happening now?
So that was interesting. So I took part in the game jam, and we had no idea when I was first taking when I entered into it. I just wanted to find a way to like add some more credentials onto my plate that was game related. And when I entered it, afterwards they were just like surprise, surprise. There's also like big money involved. You can end up earning like $2,500. Your team could earn $2,500.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, Oh, damn, I need that. So I ended up, so they put you in a team which is complete strangers, and I had no idea this was like, how it's gonna work. I had no idea I was even gonna go with strangers. I thought I was gonna do it solo to some degree, but I was like, okay. And we had the smallest group out of everyone, the absolute smallest group, and one of our members wasn't able to like work much on it, almost anything due to the life happens. Like we get it.
Sure, sure,
But it sucked nonetheless for everyone else involved, and but understandable. And we ended up somehow still uphill battle. I sort of ended up helping out in both programming and also like creating like particle effects and stuff like that, like helping out with the design, I guess. And ultimately, we did end up winning first place, and we managed to get with the prize money. I never knew I would do this because I'm generally always so fun. Like, oh, I like to put everything's into games, but like all that prize money, I ended up putting it into like Walmart gift cards to like help me pay groceries for the
I
time
get it.
being.
I get it, man. I get it. Sometimes you got to make the adult decision, right?
Yeah, it was the first. I'm right now 31 years old. I still feel like such a child, but that was the one time that I was like looking at the prize money. I'm like, I'm crying because I know I need to use this in a responsible manner.
Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah.
But so how are things going now with the job hunt? Like, where are you at currently?
So I'm currently I found a little bit more success in using in I guess getting referrals, I guess, and being able to like get potential interviews. Right now because it's like overly saturated, the job market. It's become difficult just to get that interview. And I feel like most most jobs that I end up sending applications to never really hear back. So I decided that okay, I need to really stand out, and I feel right now the best way to actually get an interview at this point is to just get a referral because so it's similar to like what you ended up mentioning before in the previous episodes regarding like AI, where like sometimes they might certain recruiters might not necessarily get your resume in hand, but like when you end up getting a referral, then chances are they're going to get it in hand. Like they're not going to be like, hey,
Exactly.
they're not gonna be like, hey, Joe recommended this guy. It's like, nah. Like I'm not even gonna look. Like they're not gonna say that. They're generally gonna take
No.
a glance.
Yeah, and
So
for and for everybody that's listened to every episode of the show, and they're wondering why this guy and all of his guests always talking about networking all the time. It's networking, networking, networking. That's why. That's exactly why.
100%, man. Like
Make
honestly,
games, yes, make games, but also make friends.
yeah. I've completely turned over a new leaf from when I started because I felt like I get it. Like I at the beforehand, I was like, I know networking will help. I know it will, but I generally struggle to like speak to others mainly because I guess to me, I'm generally more of an introvert, um, and I always am focused on like projects, my own sort of like things that I want to end up doing. And so to me, it's like I, and especially because right now I don't have a job. Half the time I'm like I just want to purely focus on like being able to focus on like making up my own games and being able to like apply to jobs and stuff like that. That recently I've just been trying to like it's almost been like I don't want to say like it's been because to me in my mind it feels like I'm quitting when I stop looking for a job or when I stop working in games. But you need to just take a break at times just because if you don't and you just keep doing the same thing over and over, you won't. You need to take a step back to sort of like see what you've done, find out what works, what hasn't, and if you're always focused on like doing the same thing that you have been doing, you're never gonna have that moment of like, is that the word introspection? When you just sort
Yeah,
of like
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and that's what I've been lacking for the longest time is just I think I've been making the same mistake over and over and it hasn't really been all that great, but like very recently I've been taking a step back. We ended up getting my girlfriend bought Split Fiction, the co-op game,
Oh yes, I've heard
recently.
good things. I've heard good things.
Yeah, And I've been trying to like just take a break here, just enjoy life, just find the beauty that's so
Absolutely.
obviously
It's
there.
it's so important. And one plus as a game creator, it's important to consume other games for lots of different reasons. You know,
100%.
so yeah, that's great. But yeah, listen, hey Charlie, thanks again for coming on. Man, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us, and let's stay in touch, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now I'm joined by Lawrence. Lawrence is a voice actor and community manager, currently going through his own game industry job hunt. He's here to kind of catch us up on what's happening with him. So Lawrence, how you doing, man? Thanks again for being on the show, and give everybody a quick background about you and how you got into the industry and just kind of what your deal is.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. So I got involved through a variety of different ways, with most of all being able to say yes and using the different skills that I have in photo, video, community management, and in some of my favorite stories, let me pitch an insane idea and let's go. So that leads to a couple of the different things that we'll talk about very shortly. Now, in voiceover, I'll tell you how I got started in that. It was the kind of beginning of the pandemic. My friend Sonny Strait, which most people know as the voice of Krillin and Usopp, if you're Dragon Ball and One Piece watchers, needed somebody to engineer for his classes. So Sonny teaches dubbing, and that's anime dubbing.
Yeah.
So the problem was, how do you do anime dubbing from home remotely? And remember, this is the kind of beginning of the pandemic, everything like that. How do we do it? I came up with the solution for how we'll do it. And then Sonny goes, "You're the engineer now." And that's how I started with that. So I was engineering for Sonny, and then he said I should try voiceover myself. Started doing it, and I booked leads in various video games as well as live action and other things, which hopefully I'll be able to talk about. And probably by the time your listeners see this, I will be, or have already announced, at AwesomeCon. I'll be the voice of their cosplay contest, which will be very exciting.
Cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, give me an idea of kind of how things are going for you. Sort of what, how long have you been on the hunt? What's happening? How are things going currently?
So aside from when you usually work as a contractor, which is what I mostly ended up doing when it comes to the game industry, there's always that kind of thing of being on the hunt. But for a lot of different stuff, it's been harder because a lot of things are more basically going back into offices, which are not where I live. See, I live in New York, little outside New York City.
So you're definitely looking for something remote, which I know that's where I've been ever since the pandemic. I've gone for remote, probably to never look back.
And there's a couple reasons for that, because for a lot of things, the majority of what you need can actually be done remote. And aside from that, it is also something that adds to the accessibility for people who can have a variety of disabilities. So a lot of stuff is you actually can do it remote or mostly remote.
How has that need for a remote role and that distance, how has that sort of affected your job hunt? Or even just tracking down contract roles or anything?
I always keep myself open to stuff, but it's like what becomes available and then how they'll put things out. So a lot of stuff, even if you see it's like hybrid, they still want someone somewhat local. And as we know, especially for larger game companies, it's a kind of thing of they want that in-office kind of control aspect, which in a lot of things doesn't necessarily make sense, and yet they'll be the first ones to have you work after hours and things like that. But it's more about being able to do stuff with things. Like I said, so it's like what will be good for the property, the community itself, and also, like I said, it's what will be good so that more people can actually access the careers themselves and be able to do it. Because there are so many different things when you're dealing with office environments that you may not have everything, even if your office says they try to be ADA compliant. So,
how are things going in general? Like, are you getting interviews? Are you having some luck there? Are there specific struggles that you're going through, specific wins you're getting? What's the story there?
well, people actually always do like to interview me for stuff, but then the problem is sometimes it goes for like the next level after that. It's like, here's the problem, because you were a contractor, they don't necessarily want to do something with a contractor, even though, oh, this position may be for 3 months. Well, that's a legal definition of a contractor. Or that they want to have somebody who's only like local to like their offices, but not necessarily explain why. And then there's also the compensation issue. Now we know, at least because of salary transparency laws, they can't generally give no idea of what it would be, because here in New York, California, they have to say what they're willing to pay, as opposed to basically trying to go and lowball everybody intentionally.
Yeah.
So you basically can end up having people work for very bad wages because they may think this can possibly help me get something. But even now, if your game is successful, you can still be laid off anyway, so it'll look better on a stock report or something like that, which makes no sense. But it's more of, they have the interest, but sometimes you just think they're just going through the motions and never actually hiring anybody. Because even though, and we see this, there's a lot of ghost jobs.
Yeah,
that they more want to look like they're doing something as opposed to actually doing something and just collecting the resumes until they absolutely need something. So that's what I more feel like has been happening a lot, because for all sorts of different kind of roles in gaming and out of gaming, I get a lot of interviews for stuff or requests. It's not as many as I would like, but interviews aren't as important as like actual conversions if you want to do it for like marketing and media stuff.
Sure, yeah. For you, which came first, the community or the voiceover? Like the community management side of things or the voiceover side
Community.
of things? Yeah. How did you get into community management?
Well, by saying yes to stuff and getting involved in different things. So I actually do help moderate several popular Discords on things. I actually help contribute content to some others. And these are like for games that have like either come out or people and personalities, because even people and personalities also require community management, because we've seen what happens in an unmoderated Discord. So it's, you have to see if like what'll actually do and how you can do it, make rules and moderation and all that stuff. But it's also in the concept of generating content, which has led to some of my favorite stuff. Like when I actually pitched to Riot, when my now friends the Spiral Cats were visiting, their famous cosplayers from Korea who usually do all the game launches, hey, why not do some photos and video stuff all around Times Square and everything while they're coming to visit for finals? And we made it happen. And that's been one of my favorite gaming memories that actually got covered by Kotaku and a couple other places too. Very
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I totally get that. You know, it's kind of a good segue into sort of something that you mentioned in the forum. By the way, if you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you probably have seen me post this form that you can fill out to be a guest on the show yourself, just like Lawrence did. And so when you filled out that form, you put something kind of interesting in there: the journey, hardships, and fun in the industry and concerns in the industry. That sort of strikes me as like a big part of that, right? Those gaming memories that you have that, oh, wow, this was an amazing thing that I got to do. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So by being able to say yes, it's like figuring out different stuff. Back when there was like some budding esports inside New York City, this was like way before it became more of a major scene. It's like, yeah, let's shoot stuff inside the Microsoft store. And I actually did that with a small esports organization that actually no longer exists anymore.
As we kind of wrap things up here, what's the most important thing that you've learned while you've been on the job hunt and kind of looking for different roles?
Be open, read through stuff, and then see what you're going to be getting into.
I think that's really good advice is know what you're applying for, know what you're going after, because I'm sure it's not that uncommon that people just apply for things and they don't really read the job description, and then maybe they get an interview and it doesn't really go very well because they aren't informed about what it is they're actually applying for. So I think that's really good advice. Yeah, listen, Lawrence, thank you again, man, for chatting with me for a while. I really appreciate it. Let's stay in touch for sure. I want to keep up to date on what's happening with you. So thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everyone listening, follow this podcast. There's a lot of great insight, and there's going to be even more.
Thank you. Tell your friends.
Definitely.
Yes, indeed. Please do tell your friends. Guys, thanks again for listening to episode, I believe, 11 now. Wow. We are rolling through them here of the Game Industry Job Hunt podcast. Really appreciate it. Big thanks to you. Big thanks again to Charlie and Lawrence, my guests for this episode. It's our second Community Voices episode. So again, if you're interested in sharing your story with us on the show, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let me know. I have a forum you can fill out, quick and easy, and we'll have you on the show, and we'll have a chat and get your story, get your background, all that kind of thing. Be a lot of fun. Let's do it. That's it for now, guys. Keep your heads up. You're not in this alone. Keep pushing, and good things are going to happen. We'll see you in the next one.